What's going on, guys? I'm doing a video today on why Batman Forever could have been the best Batman movie ever. This movie altered the history of Batman movies. If Joel Schumacher had did it right, we wouldn't have gotten Nolan. And I'm not mad about what happened in Batman Forever because we got Nolan. But if everything had been done right, you know, we would never had went through like a 8 year drought or whatever of Batman films. You possibly could have got Batman versus Superman and so forth. So I just thought it'd be cool to do a video on what he should have done right to make this movie the best movie it possibly could have been. Batman Forever is my favorite film out of the first four Batman movies. Val Kilmer is my second favorite Batman character or actor. Uh, the reason why is because he made me care about Bruce Wayne. In the first two Batman films, which were one of them was really good. Obviously, the very first Batman movie, as good as Michael Keaton's performance was, I don't know if it was Tim Burton's fault or whatnot, but Bruce Wayne was kind of non-existent. He was there, but he wasn't there, like he wasn't the Bruce Wayne that we know him as. The one that Christian Bale illustrated. And I thought Val Kilmer was the first actor to do this. So I thought he did a really good job given all the flaws in this movie. And I thought this movie was actually good, even though it had a bunch of flaws. So I'm gonna start off like the problems in this movie. There's a bunch of them. I to a certain degree nitpicked it because I do care about this film. So I'm gonna read off a bunch of the stuff that I found wrong and what they should have corrected on to make this film the best Batman movie that it could have been. First was the opening credits. Should have been no opening credits. I just feel like it takes away from the actual comic. It makes it just feel like it's just a movie and not an actual comic book. So no opening credits. I don't want to see actors' names, and that's the great thing about a lot of these movies now, like the comic book films. You don't see like the actors' names because at the end of the day, the character should be much more important than the actor. A more serious Two-Face and Riddler. Two-Face was like a cracked up version of the Joker, just a really stupid version of the Joker. Tommy Lee Jones is not a bad actor whatsoever. It's just the direction he was taken in led him to have this bad performance as Two-Face. He should have never been laughing. He should have used his coin in every decision that he made. Like, I don't understand why Joe Schumacher didn't get that. I just don't get it. I think honestly, I think he ignored a lot of the things that really made Batman who he is, and he really just went for the corny, lighthearted era of Batman. The one with the Adam West and the '70s comic books, that type of stuff. The ones where Batman and Robin were put in a lighthearted tone instead of a more darker tone. Riddler, obviously, he should have been much more serious. Jim Carrey was the right guy for the Riddler, but Jim Carrey to me is what Ryan Reynolds is to Green Lantern. Like, Ryan Reynolds wasn't a horrible Green Lantern. The problem is he's not a great actor, and as a director, you're like a coach. These actors are your team, and you have to pull out the best out of them. You have to pull out their full potential and maximize it and contain whatever flaws they have. And Joe Schumacher, he didn't do that. And the perfect line to describe, um, I can't even remember his name now, Jim Carrey, when he was playing the Riddler, the best line to describe him, I typed it up. Okay. He says, "Am I over the top? I can never tell." That perfectly described who Jim Carrey is. Jim Carrey is a good actor, but like you can never see him in a really serious movie. Like he was over the top the whole entire film, and yeah, he can't tell. It so couldn't Joe Schumacher. I don't know why he didn't contain some of the stuff that he did in the film. If he had contained it and made him more serious, then the Riddler would have been solid. I wasn't really bothered by his attire that he wore. I was just bothered more by the performance and how he was able to get into the Batcave and stuff like that. And another problem with him was the brainwave machine. Now he got this clearly from the '90s cartoons, and if you watch the '90s cartoons, you know what I'm talking about. There was a virtual reality simulation machine that he used on Commissioner Gordon, and Commissioner Gordon was stuck in the virtual world, and Batman had to save him, or else his brain would have been scrambled. So they did that in the film, but the problem is they made it where Riddler was pretty much sucking all the neurons and the brain energy that these people had to make him smarter. The Riddler is already smart. He wasn't dumb. Like, I don't get why they did it. That was so ridiculous. They should just had it where he just used it to make people feel like they're in the real world, but they're really not, and they can actually kill themselves being stuck in there for too long. If they did that, they would have just been fine. But instead, they had this dude, taking brain power. It was so stupid. And then they had that little scene where him and Two-Face were doing it. It was really stupid. Now, I want to also talk about the relationship between Wayne and Dent. It was clearly irrelevant and it was non-existent. I don't know why. The one scene where Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase talking to Batman, she was trying to seduce him on top of the building. That should have been scraped. What they really should have done was have Commissioner Gordon and Batman talking, and Commissioner Gordon should have been talking about Harvey Dent, saying how sad it was that he became Two-Face, and he should ask Batman, do you know anything else more about what's been going on with Harvey Dent? Because Commissioner Gordon knew who Harvey Dent was before he turned to Two-Face. They just made it seem like he never even knew who Two-Face truly was before he became Two-Face, which was ridiculous. So they should have a conversation between those two, and then they should have flashbacks where Batman was thinking about all the times that he had spent with Harvey Dent as Bruce Wayne, because they were really good friends before he turned to Two-Face. I don't know why they didn't show that in flashbacks. That didn't make any sense. They should show them like sitting at a table, eating dinner or something, talking about how they wanted to make Gotham a better place before he turned into Two-Face. That way we could actually see, like why Two-Face is the way he is. Like, I don't have a problem with them incorporating Two-Face already in that universe. It's just they made it where like we just shouldn't even really care for his motives, So I don't get why Joe Schumacher didn't use that. It really would have helped out the film. The flashback of Dent was almost pointless. Now I'm talking about the scene where Bruce Wayne is sitting in the chair and he sees Harvey Dent getting scarred on the face, and then as Batman, he's in the jury room trying to save him. Now, this was in the comics, so I understand where Joe Schumacher got it from, but it still was stupid because just overall, Batman would never just be sitting in a courtroom. And number two, like, they just made it seem like, oh, he just got scarred on his face and that was it. There's really nothing else. Like, they could have made it where Batman, well, not Batman, but Bruce Wayne, he felt guilty. Like, he felt guilty for his parents' death in the film. They should have made it where he also feels guilty for what happened to Harvey Dent, because if he was there, a second earlier, if he was ahead of the curve, then Harvey Dent would have never got burnt. So they should have had that too, and they should have illustrated, like I said, that Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne were really good friends, because they literally waited to the end of the film for Two-Face to say that. He says that at the end before he dies. He goes, Bruce, you're really a good friend. If you're not a Batman fan, you really don't know what he's talking about. So that was ridiculous. They should, like I said, they should have shown flashbacks of him talking to Bruce Wayne. That way you see how guilty he feels for letting Harvey Dent get hurt. Or, get his face, filled with acid. Skip Enigma's way to becoming Riddler, make it more mysterious. I didn't like the way they had Riddler become who he is. Like, it was just stupid. He was talking to that fake Riddler machine or whatever. It should never been like that. It should just been like he was just, game planning and thinking, coming up with a strategy, and then he just becomes the Riddler. So you just make it more mysterious. I don't get why he would do something that's stupid, but he did. Commissioner Gordon, they should have made him much smarter. I don't understand. For all you people who don't like Nolan films, but you like the first four films, I don't understand how you can criticize Nolan without criticizing everybody. Like the first four films, you need to criticize Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher. Commissioner Gordon is a really smart guy. In the first four films, he was like a nobody. Literally, like they just made him like a fat cop. Pretty much that's all he really was. Just like a fat cop who just waited on Batman just to save the day. He never tried to uh, become a hero himself or nothing like that. He was nothing like the real Commissioner Gordon from the Nolan films. They should have made him much smarter. Like in this one line, he says, "Can we reason with him?" referring to Two-Face. First of all, he should know that Two-Face is a nut. You cannot reason with a nut. Commissioner Gordon, I was messing up. Commissioner Gordon, he knows these criminals. Like they're not gonna reason with them. Why would you make him sound so stupid? They made him look pathetic in the first four films. It was so ridiculous. It's nothing like the real Commissioner Gordon. And like I said, for you people who worship the first four films, you really need to think about all the criticisms that you've had towards Nolan when you don't criticize these first four films. No nipples on the suit. Obviously, that's obvious. Uh, like I said, no nipples on the suit. No neon lights, make it more of a realistic city. And like I said, the neon lights, it was just really irritating. Like, I'm going to put it this way. Batman Forever reminds me of Xbox 360. Xbox 360 has more flaws than people will admit, but since it's a really good gaming system, people are going to still buy it and play with it. If you think about it, as good as Xbox is, the most annoying parts, the light of death, the controllers being easy to break, the fact that you have to even pay for online when PS3 you don't have to pay for online. It's just a little irritating stuff, but since it's a great system, people put up with it. I felt like with this movie, it was a good movie, so people put up with it. And that's probably the reason why Joe Schumacher was able to make the nonsense that he did in Batman Forever, because pretty much as fans as a whole, we gave him a pass because through all the nonsense in the Batman Forever, it was still a good film. Bruce, like I said, Bruce should have showed guilt for Dent just like his parents. Don't make Two-Face Harvey Dent the killer for Robin. They should have never done that. They should have made the killer someone who's connected to Two-Face. That way he could take down the killer and then get to Two-Face. And what I mean by that is the scene where Dick Grayson uses the Batmobile and goes, to find some random criminals. That should have been where he found the the killer or whatever, and he could beat him to a pulp or whatever, and then Batman like stops him because all these people are, or all the other criminals are about to try to hurt, uh, you know, Dick Grayson, and then that's when they go to the Batcave or wherever, and that's when that should have been one of the most emotional scenes when Dick Grayson is talking to Bruce, saying, "You don't know how I feel," and Bruce Wayne's telling him, "Yes, I do. Like my parents were killed just like yours." They should have really had it where Chris O'Donnell's Dick Grayson was literally crying, like begging him, like, "Bruce, like please help me train. Like I really need this. Like you know exactly how I feel, the pain and the anger and the guilt that I feel. Like if they had just had him be emotional, that would have really connected people to Robin, and they didn't do that. And like I said, they should have had it where Bruce trains Robin, or he trains Dick Grayson, but he like they should have had it where he tells him, like in the movie, like, you have to promise me one thing, and I have one rule and one rule only. No matter what, you cannot kill Two-Face. Like they should have had that. They should have had it where he even tells him, like, you need to put this, like you need, like, swear and put this on your parents' grave that you will not kill him, because now he'll think of his parents like, I can't do this because I made a promise that I wouldn't kill. Now that might be a little bit out of character, but for this film it would have fit. What else next that I have? The new Batman suit towards the end of the film, that should have been used the whole entire film. I really like that suit. After the Dark Knight and Batman Begins suit, that's my next favorite suit. They really should have used that the whole entire film. That would have erased the whole nipple crap on the suits. And let's see. I think I have some more other stuff. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff down. I already talked about the relationship between Batman and Gordon. I'll talk a little bit about um, Robin. Chris O'Donnell. Chris O'Donnell did a good job for what it's worth. He actually did a good job trying to illustrate Dick Grayson. And some people give him flack. I'm not gonna give him flack. He did a good job. It is what it is. Can there be a better interpretation of Robin and Dick Grayson? Yes, but for this film, he did what he could do with the script. He was dealt with these certain type of cards, and he made use of them. So, I just want to also say about this film and just about Robin in general. I'm not the biggest Robin fan. I'm really not a Robin fan. I do like Nightwing. I just feel like in the films that Robin has been put in, it always makes Batman corny, and that's the reason why I feel the way about Robin. So that's why when I heard about like John Blake being Robin, it was just stupid to me, because it's just like every time I see Robin, except for like the '90s cartoons of Batman, he always came off making Batman look corny. Now in that series, the '90s cartoon, he didn't, and that's the interpretation they need to use for the next reboot. So I'll talk more about should they even use Robin in the Batman reboot. But yeah, I just want to say for what it's worth, Chris O'Donnell actually did a good job in this film as Robin. And yeah, if they had did these things plus used that red book, the book where Bruce Wayne was using his father's stories or handwriting, the journal, if they had used that more, and him, juggling his conscience, this would have been the best Batman film, possibly ever. So it sucks that this movie had a lot of potential and it didn't work like it should have. It was still a good film, but it wasn't a great film. But at the end of the day, we got Nolan. So all these films, even Batman and Robin, they have their purpose in the comic book universe. So yeah, this film was made in 1995. So who would have thought that 10 years later we would get the beginning of what is possibly the greatest trilogy of all time so far. That's crazy. So you never know what's gonna happen in the future. So yeah, I'm done talking about Batman Forever. Feel free to comment.